We are just counting hours to the official start of the 8th Devolution Conference. Good evening from the broadcasting headquarters of TV47 here in Nairobi. My name is George Maringa. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloi. Now, over the last 9 years, the Council of Governors has hosted 7 devolution conferences across the country, with the previous conferences being held in Kwale, Kisumu, Meru, Nakuru, Kakamega, Kirinyaga, and Makueni counties. Right. In line with the resolutions arising from the 6th Devolution Conference, it was agreed that the conferences should be hosted after every 2 years to allow sufficient time for partners to fully implement the resolutions that emanate from the conferences.
Indeed, and of course, good evening to you. My name is Linda Alela, and today, being a Tuesday, well, the People's Court is here with us, but on the road this time round. We shall be taking you through the county, that is the county of Uasin Gishu, where my colleague Fred Ndimuli will be speaking to the stakeholders in the world of devolution. And here in studio, I will also be speaking to Wakili Kariuki Njeri. He is a lawyer, and we shall be assessing the performance of devolution over the last 10 years, but of importance, where we are headed.
Absolutely. We shall be taking stock of how far we've come, where we are, and where we are headed. But before that important conversation coming on the People's Court, let's bring you some of the stories making headlines tonight. Leaders of Azimio Alliance, Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, have firmly asserted that they have no intention of being involved in the government's operations.
We mean business, and I've told even our friends on the other side, we are not here to waste time.
As Kenya Kwanza leaders ask Kenyans to give the president time to turn around the economy. Lamu Deputy County Commissioner Gabriel Kioni has verified that 2 individuals are unaccounted for following a suspected terrorist attack by Al-Shabaab in the region between Hindi and Bargoni in Lamu West.
Kama zaidi ya watu 50 wakakuja barabarani na wakaanza kunirusha risasi.
Plus, Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza is on the brink of encountering new challenges.
People working in the office of the governor of Meru County have been siphoning, brutally looting the public coffers.
As serious allegations have emerged against her, suggesting that she might have redirected public funds by making questionable payments to family members and trusted associates. Indeed, engage us on our social media platforms on X, formerly Twitter, at TV47 News, at Linda_Alela, at Fred Ndimuli, at George Maringa_. Use the hashtag #TheDailyReport. We'd love to hear from you, especially as you take stock of the last 10 years, even as the 8th Devolution Conference kicks off tomorrow in the county of Uasin Gishu. Welcome to the broadcast. Let's get you informed now, shall we? And Azimio la Umoja and Kenya Kwanza leaders have come out to speak on the current political situation in the country. Azimio says they have no intention of power sharing and are only interested in the welfare of Kenyans, while Kenya Kwanza has requested for time to deliver on its promises. This as parties to the bipartisan talks which are led by Azimio's Kalonzo Musyoka and Kenya Kwanza's Kimani Ichung'wah are yet to settle on some key issues in the talks.
Azimio leaders have come out to rubbish power-sharing claims, saying they only want what is best for Kenyans. Speaking at the burial of Brian Mwendo, who was killed during the anti-government protest, they have said that they are only interested in what affects Kenyans.
Mpaka hii kamati ya Kalonzo na Ichung'wah iangalie, ili kila Mkenya awe ni Mkenya, anatambulika kama Mkenya, ana haki kama Mkenya, hata kama yeye ni mtu wa Azimio au mtu wa Kenya kwisha.
We mean business, and I've told even our friends on the other side, we are not here to waste time. We are not to play games. If you want to discuss the problems, wizi wa kura, agenda yote iko hapo.
Led by Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, the leaders have also condemned police brutality and use of force to disperse demonstrators.
that the people who are sitting in the talks are going to remember the life of Brian, that student who wanted to go to Jomo Kenyatta University to build a house for the man.
On the other hand, Attorney General Justin Muturi has asked the opposition leaders to give the president time to work and deliver on his promises.
It is good for our country. That's why I support what Mheshimiwa said. Wale ambao wamepatiwa nyadhifa katika serikali kuu, katika uwakilishi bungeni, mabunge ya counties, ni lazima zote tuwajibike.
President William Ruto, who was attending a funeral service in Nakuru County, also said that he only wants what benefits the country, adding that devolution has played a major role in the growth of the country.
Kesho tutakuwa na mkutano ya magavana wetu wa Kenya ku celebrate devolution. Niwahakikishie magovernors wetu wote ya kwamba as an administration we are great believers in devolution and we are going to support devolution.
Azimio and Kenya Kwanza bipartisan talks began yesterday, and a positive outcome is what Kenyans expect from it all. Vera Alberta, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Vera, for that. To the county number 12, and Meru County officials have now come out to defend Meru County Governor Kawira Mwangaza against accusations of allegedly diverting public funds through suspicious payments to relatives and close friends. And as Andrin Kilemi now reports, Meru County Chief of Staff Harrison Gatobu says the allegations are pure politics meant to disorient the governor and to further paralyze operations at the Meru County government.
Addressing the media, Meru County officials, including the Chief of Staff and the Chief Officer of Public Service Administration and Management, defended Meru County Governor Kawira Mwangaza against accusations of diverting 42.4 million shillings to 4 people believed to be her relatives and close friends in the past 1 year.
Hii ni siasa tupu ya kustua wafanyikazi. Unajua kuna hata maneno yamenisangaza wakati nimeangalia ile watu wanaambiwa ni family members. Now you are somebody like a name Nefat, it's not a family member. You know, it is so tailor-made. Unaangalia unaona hii siasa ilikuwa inachezwa hapa kwa sababu sio hiyo peke yake walikuwa wanawekewa pesa. Ile pesa ambayo imekuwa kwa ofisi ya governor is over 180 million. So why selectively pick a few people usema wamewekewa pesa?
Meru Chief of Staff Harrison Gatobu, who by extension was listed by the petitioner among people who received the public funds, said information captured in the statement by the petitioner Salesio Duranera was manipulated.
It is not covering 1 year. For example, I want to start where the distortion is coming in. Because that document, even you can peruse it. It is with you. It is starting from 1st of July last year, and it is ending to this year. So what I'm saying, there is a distortion of information. There is already information for this year. Hii mwaka ambayo tuko mwaka ya serikali. Hiyo ni document imevuka miaka 2 ya serikali.
In the petition, Duranera Salesio named Miriam Gwantai, Rose Gwantai, and Nefat Kinywa as some of the relatives employed by Kawira in her office. The petitioner listed Rose as one of the people who received large sums of money from the county government.
People working in the office of the governor of Meru County have been siphoning, brutally looting the public coffers. I wondered how a secretary, a bodyguard, municipal council manager can be paid monies purporting to have offered catering services, purporting to have offered stationaries, purporting to have offered accommodation services to the county government.
According to Salesio, Rose received 2.7 million shillings from the county between September 2022 and July 2023, being payment for accommodation and other unspecified items. The petitioner further flagged the account of one Catherine Rukaria Kadhure, who is the secretary to the Chief of Staff of Meru County, for having received a total of 13 payments of amounts ranging from 100,000 shillings to 600,000 shillings. In another instance, Lydia Nkatha, alleged girlfriend to the Chief of Staff, is said to have been paid 6.8 million shillings for hospitality supplies, domestic travel, committee and seminars, catering and accommodation in a period of 9 months. The petitioner now wants the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC to investigate the spending in Governor Mwangaza's office as well as probe staff members for receiving suspicious payments. Andrin Kilemi, TV47.
Thank you, Andrin, for that. 2 people have been reported missing in a suspected Al-Shabaab terror attack in Hindi and Bargoni, that is in Lamu County. Another attack was also reported in Garsen, where 6 people cheated death after terrorists attacked their vehicle. Elizabeth Atieno reports.
This car paints a clear picture of what ensued on Tuesday along the Garsen Road in Lamu County. It is an accident that occurred when the driver of this private vehicle, occupied by 6 passengers, tried to run away from Al-Shabaab terrorists.
Wakaenuka kwa wingi kama zaidi ya watu 50, wakakuja barabarani na wakaanza kunirusha risasi. Wakarusha huku wakishauti wakisema simama. Sasa kwa sababu ya kuokoa abiria wangu, walivyokuwa wanapiga zile risasi zao, mimi wakirusha napiga gari zigzag, nikabidi nihepeshe gari mkono wangu wa kulia au wakiwa mkono wa kushoto. So nikaingiza gari msituni, lakini kwa bahati mbaya wakalenga tairi ya mbele ya upande wa Taniboy. Hapo nika manage kutoa watu 3, 2 wakawa wamebaki pale ndani, mwanamke mmoja na jamaa mmoja. So tukakimbia msituni, wakafika pale, wakakutana na yule madam, lakini bahati nzuri madam akawa yuko pale, hajiwezi, anatetemeka, lakini anasoma shahada ile yake ya mwisho, maana kifo kilikuwa kimemfikia. So walivyoona vile, wakasimama pale, wakaomba msamaha kwa yule madam, wakamwambia pole, chukua vitu zako kimbie. Kumbe ni Waislamu wenzetu, wakamsaidia.
At the same time, 2 people have been reported missing after they were attacked by the terrorists in a commercial truck while heading to Bargoni village from Hindi. Thereafter, the terrorists set ablaze the vehicle using a rocket-propelled grenade.
Chakula ilikuwa sima, kuna mchele, kuna maharagwe, kulikuwa na mosquito kills pia, vitu mingi ilikuwa ndani kwa gari. Na sasa ile habari tulipata kwamba walibeba ile chakula na wakachoma gari. Vijana wawili habari yao sasa tunapata kwamba kwa sawa, na lakini bado hajafika kwa mkono wetu, lakini tunapata kwamba hiyo vijana walichoroka wakaingia msituni, askari walifuata hao, lakini sasa imepatikana.
Sisi kama jamii, kama community, tuchukueni hadhari, tuangalie time gani za kusafiri na tuhakikishe kuwa tunaposafiri ile hali ya clearance ama hali ile ya usalama umeboreshwa ama umedhibitiwa.
In the recent days, Lamu County has been subjected to frequent terror attacks, the recent case being on the 1st of August when 2 people lost their lives and 10 others were injured following the attacks. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
Thank you, Elizabeth. The exact number of Kenyans registered on the controversial Worldcoin remains undisclosed, as the security of data already shared remains unknown, according to the Office of Data Protection Commissioner. Today, the National Assembly Committee on Communications and Innovations grilled Data Commissioner Immaculate Kasait, who stated that the office has initiated an inquiry with other agencies to ascertain the current operations of Worldcoin in the country.
The long queues at KICC would let the cat out of the bag on Worldcoin activities in July this year. 2 years later, after the organization began data collection activities in the country, as reported by the Data Protection Commissioner, Immaculate Kasait, today she found herself in a position of scrutiny and inquiry.
Who was the local representative that was working with the Worldcoin CEOs and officials from Berlin? Number 2, what is the name and postal address and place of business for Worldcoin in Kenya? Because Data Protection Commission must have established that before they actually went ahead to give them the go-ahead to operate in Kenya.
Operating under legitimacy, the place of operation is a government facility. That needs clarification. So who is fooling who? Are you saying that the government knew? The government did know?
In April 2022, the Commission would then issue a letter of cessation to Worldcoin after it noted they were scanning irises of unsuspecting Kenyans.
We didn't just wake up when the issue were brought to the attention of Parliament as early as 30th of May of this year, Chair, before Worldcoin went to the public. As I repeat, as early as 30th of May, we issued them with a letter of cease.
But that did not stop the organization from operating in the country until Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki ordered for the suspension of its activities.
We did not know that Worldcoin were continuing their registration until they went public. Because when you issue a cessation order is when you only knew about it when it became to the public. And from what we did after realizing is when we did that press statement to caution the members of the public.
This raising eyebrows amongst many on the legal framework under which Worldcoin sought to operate in the country and who authorized the organization's collection of data from Kenyans.
They paid for the registration fee, and apart from the registration fee, which is regulatory, we did not receive any other funds from Worldcoin. The office is not aware of any other payment.
The pertinent question would then be how many Kenyans scan their eyeballs and how does Worldcoin safeguard the data they have collected in the country?
Pass 1 to Section 9(1) and Section 59 of the Data Protection Act has commenced a multi-agency investigation to ascertain the true position on the processing activities of Worldcoin.
The submissions by the Data Protection Commissioner were, however, not satisfactory, according to the committee chair.
Everybody is stating that they did not know this was going on. We are not convinced that there could not be such operations going on.
Another sitting is expected to be held to further probe the activities surrounding Worldcoin in the country. Sheila Chelangat, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Sheila, for that. On the first day of the 8th Devolution Conference, numerous exhibitors from all 47 counties are busy finalizing the setup of their displays, aiming to present their top-quality products. This is all in anticipation of the official opening by President William Ruto, scheduled for Wednesday at the Eldred Sports Club. Moiga William is in Uasin Gishu County and has prepared the following report.
Tuesday, Day 1 of the 4 days first biennial Devolution Conference started on a high note with county governments, delegates and different stakeholders setting up stands. The stands occupied by products and services offered by different attendees, with county governments taking the opportunity to showcase the best from their regions.
Further, while we are here, we just want the world to see, and Kenya to see. Embu has a lot to offer in terms of agriculture. We make our own cheese. We have a dairy factory, we make cheese. We also have nuts for export from Embu.
I would say that this means so much to us as Nyeri people because number one, Nyeri Water has been voted as the best company 15 years in a row. We know devolution works because we've been supported so much by the county to ensure that the people of Nyeri get enough water which is clean. Also, non-governmental organizations having an opportunity to explain to persons passing by their tents on what they can offer.
We have a program, a proposal for build, own, operate framework where we can desalinate 500,000 liters of water to 3 million liters of water per day. So we have that proposal ready. So it's a point we are calling upon the county's leadership that we have this offer that we can engage with no investment from the counties. What we need is an MOU and a water purchase agreement.
With the attendees sharing the highlights of the conference, they did not fail to express what they expect to be achieved at the end of the high-level 4-day conference.
So we are looking at a way that we will form the future of the counties in adoption of these new technologies.
Embu County is not behind in the gains that we've gotten from devolution, and we are saying going forward, we're going to embrace this. Devolution must continue to work. So actually, we have a very excellent governor Her Excellency Cecily Mutito Mbarire. We look forward to interacting with more people within the devolved government, knowing what opportunities are there. We see what other people are doing out there and see how we can benchmark with them.
Mwigi William, TV47.
Thank you, Moige, for that. And the development of mental health facilities across all the 47 counties is one among the key health agendas to be discussed in the 8th Devolution Conference that is set to kick off tomorrow at Uasin Gishu County. This is according to Health CS Susan Nahumincha, who says, among other issues, she will also be discussing with the governors the 5 pieces of legislation that are key for the rollout of the universal health coverage set to take place in the coming months. Zainab Mohammed with more.
Speaking during her impromptu visit at Madari Teaching and Referral Hospital, CS Nahumincha said among her top agendas at the Devolution Conference tomorrow is the development of mental health facilities across all the 47 counties.
We are going to start a program where we capacity build the officers within the counties to be able to take care of patients who have mental issues, but most importantly, we are going to ensure that I discuss with the governor so that we at least have at least one mental facility per county to be able to take care of the issues that arise.
According to the CS, other issues to be discussed include the rollout of the universal health coverage and the 5 key pieces of legislation necessary in its implementation.
We have a social health insurance bill, we have a primary health care bill, we have a digital health bill, we have NHIF amendment bill. All those I'm also going to discuss with the county governments because they are critical stakeholders on matters healthcare.
Counties have also sought support from the Ministry of Health on the acquisition of equipment. A matter Nahumincha says will need an intergovernmental participating agreement.
Have received a number of requests, actually from almost half of the counties, seeking support on equipment. So I'll be discussing with them so that then they can sign intergovernmental participating agreements so that we are able to support them with the equipment for them to be able to carry out their functions within the counties.
Meanwhile, a system glitch took place today within the National Health Insurance Fund NHIF, resulting in the incapacity of 1,343 hospitals across the nation to process claims. However, the government-owned insurance fund later declared that the technical issue impacting its health insurance claim system had been successfully resolved as of Tuesday afternoon. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
Away from that, residents of Gashugi village in Gatundu North, Kiambu County are in shock after 4 men were killed in cold blood by unknown assailants on Monday night. The 4, Patrick Ngoku-Wamboi, Laban Mwathi, Ernest Moigai, and another one only identified as Irongo, are said to have been on their way home when they were attacked for reasons yet to be established. Eric Matika tells us more.
A cloud of sadness enveloped Ngorongo area, Gatundu North, after this inhuman incident by unknown assailants. The 4 succumbed to grave head injuries afflicted to them by the attackers, who only aimed at their heads. Villagers discovered them laying in a pool of blood, several meters apart. The locals alleged that the terrifying attack was executed silently, since the victims did not raise distress calls and were only discovered lying in pools of blood by passers-by.
Wanakijiji hata jana hatukulala, tuna hofu nyingi sana. Tulipigiwa simu tukaambiwa kuna wanaume wamepatikana kwa barabara wakiwa wametupwa, walikuwa wameuawa. So kukuja kuconfirm tukapata ni wanakijiji wetu, wengine tunawajua.
A survivor identified as Tobias Wanyonyi escaped death by a whisker after he managed to escape from the attackers. He was rushed to Igigania Level 4 Hospital, where his wounds were treated and he was discharged. Leah Wangari, a mother of 4 whose husband was murdered, narrates how she received the news.
So ni simu nilipigiwa kutoka huku Gishagi, nikakonfirmiwa ya kwamba bwanangu ni mmoja hao wameuawa, na nikakuja nikatafuta gari, nikapanda na watoto wangu na madugu zangu, tukakuja kuconfirm kama ni bwanangu na tukapata ni yeye.
This is the second incident in a span of a month where locals in the village have been attacked. Early last month, a man was attacked and killed by unknown people. Residents say that cases of insecurity have been on the rise in the area and other neighboring villages.
Security hapa kwetu iko wanting na tungeomba MCA, MP hata serikali yote kwa jumla ikuje iangalie hii kijiji, iangalie security hapa.
A contingent of security officers led by Kiambu County Commissioner Joshua Nkanatha and the County Police Commander Pamina Skioi visited the village as investigation into the horrific ordeal kick-off. One suspect identified as Ngige Ngoko has been arrested and is being interrogated by sleuths to establish the motive behind the attacks.
Kama ni ule mmoja tumekamata because nataka confirm kwamba tuko na one suspect tumebata, tutamchukulia hatua kama mhalifu mwingine. Kwa hivyo mbegu moja isichavue kinjiji, ni kweli?
Gatondo North MP Elijah Njoroge has called on the Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki to deploy more police officers to the sub-county to enhance security and restore normalcy in villages that are most affected by insecurity cases.
Gatondo North ndio kuna police officers ambao hawatoshi kwa stations. Tuko na stations ambazo hazijafikisha hata 12 police officers across Gatondo North.
The locals now want the government to install security lights in the villages to boost security. Eric Matika, TV47, Nairobi.
Time now for some business news, and the National Social Security Fund has today given a breakdown about members' contributions and ambitious plans for the future. NSSF aims to expedite the disbursement of future benefits within 24 hours, with the target to reduce cost to just 1%. According to NSSF's Managing Trustee David Koros, the fund is striving to significantly expand its membership base to reach 1 million members, while simultaneously fostering a customer-centric, performance-based culture in order to achieve an impressive 95% customer satisfaction rate.
We want to develop our team. As I said, I think my team should remember this. I've gone round this country, maybe for your benefit. I went to all the regions that we operate. And we've said we want to also make sure, you know, institutions are run by people. And people must be developed to run the business. So that will be one of our other pillars. And when you have a retirement benefit, it is paid to you when you retire. So, once you retire, you are supposed to launch a claim and come forward and we pay you. So, and that is what has happened for almost 99% of NSSF contributions. But unfortunately, in some instances, we have certain cases where the claims are not claimed either because the owner, the beneficiary, either passed on and it's the children who are claiming, or it is involved in a succession issue. The kind of documentation required after the principal member exits or rather passes on are a bit comprehensive, and some people might encounter difficulty in complying.
Equity Group has reported a 14% growth in pre-tax profits for the first half of 2023, coming to 35.2 billion shillings. This has stemmed from the company's net interest income growth to 46.4 billion shillings and improved funding from customer deposits and growth in shareholder funds. However, the cost of risk is still high at almost 2% on the back of customers' low disposable income and rising inflation, forcing the bank to increase loan loss provision measures by 89% in the period.
A new trend by banks to drastically increase loan loss provision is emerging, with Equity Bank reporting a year-on-year growth of cost of risk from 1.3% to 1.9%, a close shave to the recommended guidance rate to the bank from the CBK.
The group has grown up to 1,645 billion. A growth of 23% at a time the market is experiencing turbulence. And as we can see, that is not matched by profitability.
To cushion this, Equity Group has almost doubled the loan loss provision from a similar time last year, from 3.3 billion shillings to 6.3 billion shillings, translating to 89%.
And that explains why the balance sheet grows by 23%, but profit after tax grows at 8%, almost a third of what the balance sheet is growing.
Net loans rose 26% to 817.2 billion Kenyan shillings in the first 6 months of 2023, while net interest income increased 17% to 46.4 billion Kenyan shillings.
The subsidiaries, reflecting the geographical diversification, are now almost of the same size with Kenya. So almost 50% of the entire balance sheet of the group is now outside the Kenya banking subsidiary.
Total assets rose 23% to 1.6 trillion Kenyan shillings, while loan loss provisions net of recoveries were up 89% to 6.3 billion. The bank has also reported a 38% year-on-year growth of total costs, from 33.9 billion shillings to 46.9 billion shillings.
When I look at the balance sheet, the total assets of the group has grown up to 1,645 billion, a growth of 23%.
However, shareholders have been assured of a 6% earnings per share, with more than half of its balance sheet now in other subsidiaries outside the country. Hibak Said for TV47.
Thank you, Hibak Said, for that report, which brings us to a close of the news right here on TV47, the Daily Report. When we come back, we shall be having sports as well as a conversation right here on the Daily Report, that is the People's Court. Remember, we had told you we are on the road tonight here in studio. Linda Alela will be having her guest, and they'll be assessing the performance of Devolution in the last 10 years. She will be speaking to Kariuki Njiri, who is a lawyer. We shall also be crossing over to Eldoret to link up with Fred Indimuli, who has a panel, a discussion on the 10 years of Devolution. He shall be telling us who he has there. Remember, the country, all eyes will be in the county of Uasin Gishu, specifically at the Eldoret Sports Ground for that Devolution conference, the 8th, happening in the country. This and much more coming your way right here on the Daily Report on TV47, your home of untold stories. Do not go away. We are back in a few minutes.
Imagine sasa ukiwa na as low as 200 shillings. Yes, so mbili unaweza futa landlord kazi. Kila mtu sasa anaweza kuwa home owner na boma yangu. Jishikie keja yako leo. Start saving any amount towards the 10% deposit required for unit allocation. Jisajili kupitia *832# ama uingie www.bomayangu.go.ke. Kisha weka shilingi 200 kama registration na deposit yako ya kwanza. Usipitwe, chukua hatua, ujipatie keja yako leo. Piga *832#. Boma Yangu is a government affordable housing program.
Welcome to the Mwai Kibaki Convention Center, the premier events venue. Our state-of-the-art facilities are designed to meet all your needs, from large-scale conferences to intimate meetings and everything in between. Located in the heart of Thika, the Mwai Kibaki Convention Center offers stunning views of the city skyline and is easily accessible from all major transportation hubs. Our facility features ample parking, free Wi-Fi, advanced audiovisual equipment, and our technical team is always on hand to ensure your event runs smoothly and seamlessly. Don't take our word for it. Make your next event unforgettable at the Mwai Kibaki Convention Center. Contact us today for bookings and reservations. Email multimedia@mku.ac.ke or call us on 0708 212204 or 0727 441733 or 0721 438 629 to learn more about our services and book your event.
Radio 47, tuko nawe mchana kutwa na usiku kucha. 95.7 Taita Taveta. Tunavuma na bado.
Do you want to advertise your business or product and you are on a budget? Then Marquee Africa is the site for you. To to advertise, upload a picture or video clip of your business or product and let the clicks get you clients. Get 4,000 clicks for as low as 1,000 bob. Get the app on the Google Play Store or iOS App Store, or visit the website www.marquee.africa. Terms and conditions apply.
I am so excited to have joined MKU. The flexibility in the payment of fees makes education very affordable.
With over 165 fully accredited programs and the state-of-art learning facilities, you literally have the world in your hands in terms of career choice.
The learning is not only uninterrupted, but also supported through ICT. And within no time, you're done with your studies.
Join us and start your career journey.
Mount Kenya. The Council of Governors will be holding the second edition of the Devolution Warrior Awards during the Devolution Conference 2023. The purpose of the awards is to recognize and celebrate the efforts of individuals and institutions that have shown exemplary performance in promoting, protecting, and championing devolution in Kenya. The awards are held after every 5 years, with the inaugural awards having been held during the 4th annual Devolution Conference in 2017. The winners shall be announced during the gala night on the 16th of August.
How much? For a ride?
We're going to town, not another continent!
For that price, we'd rather walk.
It's a rip-off! Our flight was cheaper.
Seriously, don't you have a heart?
That thing? Of course it doesn't. Rather deal with real people. Download InDrive, agree on a fair price with your driver, and say goodbye to unfair rides. InDrive, people driven.
Hi, hi!
After seeing his parents working hard as civil servants, he decided to take a different trajectory.
They were employed, but they were still struggling.
Kuwa mkulima, fanya biashara.
Of course, I'm a farmer. I decided now to go and invest in the transport sector. I managed to purchase a truck.
Alhamisi hii, saa 1:30, nitakuwa nikikuletea story na historia yake mbunge wa Chesumei, sio mwingine ni Paul Diego. Maisha yake manake yamekuwa ni maisha mengine yenye safari ya uhalisia wa aina yake. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutiko.
A very warm welcome to Primetime Sports. My name is Dennis Otieno. Now let's start off with some news regarding hockey. The National Olympics Committee of Kenya, NOC, has extended a 3 million shillings grant to the national women's hockey team Blades in a bid to fortify their preparations for the Continental Olympic qualifier slated to be held between October 29th to November 5th this year in Johannesburg, South Africa. The funds from the grant will be utilized to provide essential training resources, logistical support and specialized coaching, thereby equipping the team to compete at its best on the international stage. Speaking during the grant handover ceremony, NOC Secretary General Francis Mutuku emphasized the importance of adequate preparation for achieving success at the highest level of sports, hence the need to support all Team Kenya athletes.
The National Olympic Committee of Kenya is very pleased to provide support to the Kenya hockey women's team. Like we've said and we keep saying that performance is always a reflection of preparation, and we've encouraged and continue working in collaboration with our federations to ensure that the emphasis, the focus is in the preparation stage.
We are really grateful for this opportunity that NOC has given unto us. We've been looking forward to such for a very long time, and with this I think it gives us even more motivation towards the qualifiers.
which we are really looking forward to, so that we can qualify for the first time to the Olympics as the ladies hockey team. And with the technical bench that they've also promised that they'll offer, it will also prepare us mentally, physically, and give us much preparedness even as we head to the qualifiers. Really appreciate.
It's a happy day for us. Much has been given to us, and as we all know, to whom much is given, much is expected. So we want to put our best foot forward and show value for money, show our worth, and also just appreciate what NOC has done for us. In almost my entire career here as coach for the ladies, we've never had this kind of support.
Now, Narok FC Tuesday morning started their campaign in the 12th edition of the Water Company Sports Organization WASCO Games on a high note after defeating Siaya FC 2-1 in their opening match of the competition at the Olenti Mama Stadium, Narok. Samuel Ntokuinan fired Narok FC ahead in the 36th minute. However, Siaya FC managed to restore parity in the match in the first half. Leshan Sankok found a breakthrough to slot the ball into the back of the net in the 73rd minute and handed Narok FC the much-needed victory. The finals of the games will be held this weekend.
Game tumeingojea sana. Sisi tunaiconsider wasibu kwamba hiyo ndio ilikuwa final. So zile games ambazo zimebaki tunajua hizo tutapitia tu. Vile tulikuwa kwa game kuna bao moja ambayo ilileta tatanishi kidogo, lakini tulikwenda pale kwa VR na tukapata kutatua na kuona kwamba ilikuwa bao.
Hakika kwa game ya leo it was not easy for us because Sibo ndio tulikuwa tunatatanisha nao kidogo, tukaona ni kama tunaweza ondolewa, but it was a final. Okay, tumeweza kushinda 2 goals kwa moja.
Meanwhile, Kenya National Rally champion Karan Patel has set his eyes on winning the 4th leg of the African Rally Championship in Burundi this coming weekend. Patel, who has been preparing his car and training ahead of the race, will depart the country Tuesday night for the Continental Showpiece on the 18th to 20th August and will be navigated by his longtime friend Tausif Khan. Commenting ahead of his departure to Burundi, Patel hoped for favorable weather in Burundi, adding that the recce for the track will be vital in ensuring they put up fastest times and be crowned champions. The event will be Patel's first competitive outing since his participation in the WRC Safari Rally in June. And that is all we had prepared for you in the world of sports. Now you're up to speed with the latest sports stories taking shape locally as well as internationally. My name is Dennis Otieno. I do want to thank you for choosing to join us. I wish you a lovely night as I take it to Linda Alela on the other side of the studio, where she will be having that all-important conversation. So Linda, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Dennis, for keeping us to tabs in tabs as to what is happening in the world of sports. I think it's at this very point that we get to that crucial conversation that we'll be having for the better part of the week as we commemorate 10 years of devolution. And of course, this is one thing that is certainly worth celebrating. And as our team is on the other side, that is in Wasingishu, Eldoret, it is important that we back at home, we also get to understand, perhaps join in this very important conversation. And so it's all about a decade of devolution, 10 years on. What have we achieved? The biggest questions then would be, what was the major goal of us having the devolved units? What is the power of devolution? I mean, is it something that we want to carry on with, or it is something that we want to drop? Of course, we look at the structure of the Kenyan government, and especially under this aspect of devolution, and we set ourselves to question the government as to where they intend to take us. Of course, looking at this year's theme, one of the key things that they focus on is devolution in the past, in the present, and what the future looks like. And especially when it comes to the question of having the counties generate, revenue, or perhaps join in the conversation of giving us economic emancipation. So that's basically what we'll be engaging on. As you've heard George say, Fred Indimuli is in Eldoret, and of course that is Uasin Gishu County, and he'll be sitting with the Deputy Governor of Murang'a County, that is Stephen Mburu Munania. But on this other end, I am delighted to have Wakili Kariuki Njiri. We keep saying that before you are a professional, despite your profession, you have to realize that you're Kenyan, and therefore anything devolution is of concern to all of us. And so as we get to this conversation, Wakili, first of all, to acknowledge your presence here and say asante sana for creating time. I know nights cannot be easy, but we are glad that you made your way here for us to discuss devolution. So we begin from this very point, that yes, we are all Kenyan before we are, a journalist or you are a Wakili.
Absolutely.
Would you say that devolution has served the purpose? Just look at then, now, look at yourself in Nairobi, look at your home, and perhaps how would you analyze devolution?
If at all there is anything that I would say the 2010 Constitution had that has a big impact and good for this nation was devolution.
Yes. All right, so we will be getting into the nitty-gritty details of why you argue that way. And then came in the new government and they dropped the devolution ministry. For a moment, everyone thought, why this? Are you telling us that you're not excited about seeing the growth of devolution? Some of them that are specialist governors, had to question why it is that the current president decided that way. And questions have lingered on as to whether there is goodwill for making sure that devolution then works. If you say that this is the best thing that happened to us, do you suppose that it has justified its presence to a point where we will not opt to drop it?
Well, it has its own disadvantages, but I think the advantages are more than the disadvantages. If you look, the aim or the constitutional drafters were focusing on bringing the services
to the people.
And when you have a government that has devolved to the lowest level and to all levels, you have the county assemblies and the county executive. You have the National Assembly and the executive. Services trickle down to the people. And if properly checked, and you'll agree with me, some of those things that would not have easily been found in rural areas, they're easily found today. It has also reduced the rural-urban immigration. When you go to Murang'a, where I come from,
and we're talking to your deputy governor this evening.
Oh, yes. He was my competitor because I also ran for deputy governor.
You ran for deputy governor,
yes. Dr. Moses.
Yes.
And for now we are serving. We have agreed to serve the UDA, the current government, and Governor Kangata and Mwenania. And congratulations to them. I'm yet to have a sitting with them, but I'll create time. If you look at the towns, Keno town is growing up very fast. Look at Murang'a town, it's also growing up. Sagana, Kereaini. This is because of devolution.
Right.
The only disadvantage we are having is that, to some extent, the bad manners in national government are also trickling down to the county government, where we have lack of accountability. Maybe the governor's been pushed so hard by those who are supposed to be their checkmates, those are MCAs, and they end up giving them so many favors, and county money is misused. But where you have a governor who will be able to properly manage the resources and the goodwill of national government, I believe it's a good thing. Development will be felt.
And we'll be coming back to what it is that you had in store for the people of Murang'a while you were vying.
Yes.
And we also look at what the current governor is doing vis-a-vis that. And you perhaps will tell us whether right from the time devolution began, really Murang'a has enjoyed the best of it. I have seen a story that we have carried this evening in relation to what is playing out in Meru County, and I would agree to a large extent we have seen these tussles between the members of county assemblies and the governors, and sometimes you ask yourself, sadly, if you're going to blame the national government, what about the leadership at the counties? But before we get to that, allow us to cross over to Eldoret. We have our very own Freddie Ndimuli on standby. At least he would say hi to us and, you know, give us a banter before we get into the depth of this conversation. Freddie, how are you?
Thank you and a very good evening to Linda Lela, my colleague back in Nairobi, and to George Maringa as well. And as you asked me to do, hi, back in Nairobi. Hi, Chamge Misin from the County of Champions, County Uasin Gishu. We are at the Eldoret Sports Club, the venue of the 8th edition of the Devolution Conference. A lot of excitement in the air around this place. A lot of excitement even for the wildlife. As you can see, a lot of flying insects and objects flying around, and we'll have to bear with us. You'll have to see, you'll keep on seeing a lot of these animals flying up and about. This excitement is also there on the pitch today, and I'm here with the Deputy Governor Murang'a, as you had mentioned, Stephen Munania. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
And I'm just going through the pictures of what was happening earlier on at the Kipchoge Keino Stadium.
Yes.
Where you had this exhibition match.
Yes.
And you told me you won, but according to the, it was the Council of Governors versus the Senators. It was an interesting match.
And, it's a very interesting match.
Yeah, and you won. How did you win?
No, we won by working as a team.
And the Senators won.
But the Senator won by 3 goals.
3 goals to nothing. There was no response by the governors.
We responded by working as a team.
Well, the hope is that actually from this conference there'll be a lot. The response will be much better.
Yes.
That the explanations about the progress of devolution will be much clearer.
Yes.
And I want to start from that point. The fact that 10 years on, so many things have happened. But let me start from even the position you occupy as Deputy Governor.
Yes.
It is one of the most contentious when it comes to devolution. We've seen from the past 10 years of devolution, the relationship between the governors and deputies has not been as probably we would have expected. How is the relationship between you and your governor in Murang'a?
First of all, let me say that my governor, Dr. Irungu Kangata, is a visionary person. He has occupied so many offices from all the way from a councillor, they now called MCAs, to a member of parliament, to a senator, and now to a governor. He has, in fact, mentored so many young people throughout his political career. And through the same progress, I have become one of his students in politics. And so we enjoy a very good, cordial working relationship. Yes.
Because previously we've seen that governors do not even assign specific duties to their deputies. Do you, for example, run any specific duties at the county government of Murang'a?
I do run specific duties. The duties of a deputy governor as specified in the constitutions are very clear. To deputize your governor and perform any other functions as allocated by your governor on day-to-day basis, or whether it's on an executive order or not, the governor assigns you duties. But most importantly, you are his primary assistant on the daily county activities and all matters pertaining to the county, whether at the national level or at the local level. For me, most of my work is based on helping him achieve the vision that we went to the people of Murang'a and asked them to vote us because of those because of the things that we told them. Okay. And for me to trying to help him achieve that, I am doing my job.
Yes, and incidentally, I can see you are the only combination of governor and deputy in the COG football team that was not very successful against the governors today.
It just shows that we are working on together very well.
Okay.
Because, let me speak to a little bit about that, about the contention between governors and deputies and how it has been for the past 10 years. Devolution, as it was coming to being born, to use that term, not many people understood what counties would really mean in terms of structures. And so there were certain gaps that, whether within the constitution or even within the legislation, even from a national level or even from a county government level, that warrants it. And one of those key issues, and I'm going to give an example of 3 key offices that weren't quite expanded. One of them is the position of the deputy governor vis-a-vis his position in the county. He's the second in command in the county. He's also a member of the county executive committee, which is the supreme organ that makes decision in the county, and also is the primary assistant to the governor. Okay. Also, you tend to realize that this position is also a political position. It's not just an appointee position that you are just appointed from nowhere. You have to go through the political process. You have to go to the people and ask for votes. And the people not only vote for the governor, but also vote for the deputy governor. Whether or not one of them, the governor tends to be the person with the most experience and whose reputation is to be relied upon by the people. But also the deputy governor is also on the ballot. And so this scenario, as it was defined in the constitution, it wasn't quite clear in most of the cases in terms of daily activities, as you would see for every other county executive member. The second position that wasn't clearly defined, but there was a need, is the office of the county attorney. A county attorney is the legal advisor to the county, and also interrogates the policies and regulations that are generated in the county and point them towards a direction. That office is an office that in most counties, it's a new. For example, in Murang'a, it's the first time that we hired a county attorney as we came into office. And so what I'm saying is that devolution 10 years has taught us so many things. It has achieved a lot, but then there are certain gaps that we keep running into, and there is need to continuously address them so that we can be able to move forward.
And before we hand it over back to my colleague in Nairobi, Linda Lela, one more question. Now that you're speaking about relationships,
yes,
and because these different roles, either appointed or elected, really come together to help or distract the role that devolution should play. The role of the senator is also key.
Yes.
And your governor, Governor Irungu Kangata, has served as senator of the same county.
Yes, yes.
How is the relationship between the Senate and the county governments, and not necessarily just in Murang'a, because a lot has been said about the Senate's role in oversighting and defending devolution.
Yes.
In as far as that relationship is concerned, what is your assessment?
My take would be that the Senate ought to work in concert with the counties, and especially the county assemblies in terms of policy directions. Because remember, most of the laws generated from the county assembly, for them to be able to, they have to be accepted by the governor. But also remember that the Senate can also look at certain regulations and decide that these regulations are against the Constitution in some point. So to that extent, the Senate does its oversight job in terms of regulations, the laws generated at the county level, but also in terms of oversight in development issues of the county, and especially on the county executive. Because the senator is supposed to be the one voice outside the government who can be able to pinpoint and identify maybe a governor is not moving in the right direction. But I also want to indicate that all this do not happen in a political vacuum.
so there's still a lot to be done in as far as fixing that relationship.
The politics are not in isolation, or the county government and the Senate are not in isolation. Because if we are just talking about bureaucracies, then the Senate and the county government would be purely organizations that are working through paperwork, and it would be very cordial relationship. But then this is a political system. A senator is elected just the same day that a governor is elected. They represent the same people towards different offices.
Okay.
And now that relationship ought to be keenly identified when it comes to oversight, so that the governor does his job in the right manner, and the senator also does his job in terms of legislation and oversight.
And we'll be coming back to discuss the issues of whether or not that job has been done properly. For now, let me hand you over to my colleague back in Nairobi, Linda Lela. We'll be back looking at the hits and misses of devolution with the Deputy Governor, Murang'a County.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Fred. And because you have been highlighting what, of course, the leadership is all about, I think it's on the very note that we had left it, Wakili. And we get to this space of understanding the roles of these leaders. Fred has highlighted on the Senate rules, highlighted on the members of county assemblies, the governors themselves, and all that. And there's a comment here. I will be looking at that comment as we continue with the broadcast. But then again, the roles of, this leaders at the level of the county is quite a huge concern. You started by, pointing an accusing finger at the national government. But what about those ones that are leading the counties?
They have a very, very great responsibility. And when it comes to the governor, he is the person who sets the pace in a certain county. And if you look at the first governors, and as the deputy said, there were gaps. And those gaps have been filled by the time. But some of the governors, the initial governors, moved very fast in implementing development programs for their people. In some counties, they were left behind because most of these governors did not know what to do. They were elected fine, but really were not understanding devolution. The national government plays a very big role, like the Ministry of Devolution and the body that was responsible for transition from the previous regime to the county governments were to play a very big role. And some of those counties, I know like in Murang'a County, they had a blueprint even before the county government came in. And if the governor who was elected then would have adopted that blueprint, Murang'a would have headed towards the right direction. But because of that discretion that most of these governors have, sometimes they ignore those and they go for political reasons to act like mostly trying to survive politically, and then they forget their duties to the people.
Are you saying that Murang'a is headed in the wrong direction now that most of the governors, or all the governors that have been there, did not adapt?
No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying the previous regime would have done better. The current governor, to my assessment, is doing very well. He is in touch with the people. But the previous regime seems to somehow have languished because there was a blueprint that they refused to follow. Okay?
Yeah.
And if you look at most of the initial governors, a lot was left to be desired. What we expected, the devolved, first of all, is to understand what were the devolved functions. That is health, agriculture, the early childhood development, and those other duties, those other functions like roads, things like water. But there were so many wrangles. If you look at most of those authorities, like I would go back to, again, Murang'a County, for 10 years, there were so many wrangles of control of water resources. We have the Dakaine Dam, but Murang'a County has not benefited a lot from that Dakaine Dam. And I'm expecting the current governor, he promised to ensure that the people of Murang'a benefit from the water that is being harvested from Dakaine Dam, and it's used by the people in Nairobi and its environs.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there is a question, and that is a whole lot of conversation. We won't go into the in-depth of the same. And Joachim Ombo is watching, says devolution is a good concept, but the drivers are not a vision bearer, hence a result of corruption and very weak systems with no watertight ways of addressing this corruption.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if you would look at the anti-corruption, there are so many complaints to the anti-corruption authority over governance, corruption, and in fact, you've just run one article today. It is sad when you have people who have been given responsibility. They were elected by thousands of people, yet they are not able to manage those resources, and they become part of the problem. We should elect governors who are accountable. All those people who assist the governor to implement his policies should also remember that they have a responsibility to the people and ensure that the policies they put in, the resources that are there, are properly used for the purpose.
You speak about that and the fact that we began at a point of maybe zero knowledge, and I mean it was even a difficult thing to adapt it and accept that we have to change this system to a devolved system. Do you suppose then the masses have really understand what then is the essence of devolution, including the leadership, and especially when we refer to the members of the county assembly who are at the heart, at the pivot of devolution? Before you know it, they are scrapped off. They don't get to go to experience a second term. Is that really healthy for a concept that we're trying to grow?
Well, to some extent, yes. Most of these are elected leaders. And maximum for a governor will go for 2 terms. An MCA can be there perpetually, depending on how you perform, and also the election euphoria. But if you look at a performing governor, would hardly lose an election because the people will appreciate what that particular governor has done, despite the euphoria. You will still win. But then, if you look at the first 10 years, we have the 7th Devolution Conference, and you ask a question, have we achieved? What is it that these people should look at, these leaders should look at? First and foremost, if you go to agriculture, what have they done that they should be able to say for the last 7 years that we have been meeting here as Council of Governors? This is what we have achieved in agriculture. Look at the taxes, the tariffs. Because the county governments want to raise revenue, you are charged even goods on transit. A branded vehicle in Kajiado County is paying a tariff or some charge when it enters to Nairobi County or Machakos County. And some of those towns, it's very difficult for you to be able to operate a business without crossing over to the other county from one town center to another.
Right.
Now, if you look at the way the tariffs are done, it's like we have 47 countries in one nation.
Well, and sometimes the worry is the kind of leadership as well. Have
and
we
look,
get militias?
The world is looking at, and the world is headed towards one universal. Look like the COMESA.
Right.
You look at the East African community. We are trying to come together, remove the tariffs, so that we can be able to have a free trade.
Well, we have been having a series of devolution and speaking to the nitty-gritty details and, of course, the specific sectors they are in. And I'm sure we're going to continue with that, a series right on People's Court. Any question for your governor, your deputy governor, before we throw it back to them?
Or to Steve?
Yes. Or maybe we'll come back to get that later.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Let's go back to Freddie in Dimuli on the other side. Freddie, if you can hear me.
But for them, they have the benefit, they have a team.
Well, thank you so much, Linda Lela. And very interesting conversations going on in studio there to do with devolution. We continued evaluating the same, and we'll continue doing so this entire week here at the Devolution Conference 2023 at the Eldoret Sports Club. The venue of where the President, William Ruto, will be opening officially this 8th edition of the Devolution Conference tomorrow. And do stand by for that, as TV47 will be covering that as well. I'm still here with the Deputy Governor, Murang'a County, Stephen Munania. And you've talked about some of the challenges, especially to do with the personal relationships and politics between very key members of very key individuals or offices for devolution to be successful. So, begs the question, what is the future of devolution? Because, yes, the theme of this conference is devolution at 10 years, the present and the future, not really going back to the past.
Yes.
The present and the future. If you were asked that question, what is the future of devolution?
The future of devolution is based on the nation maturing into politics of development. Because remember that what we call the politics between a governor and a deputy governor, or between a senator and a member of parliament, or any other elected position. The other politics taking shape in the grassroots level, which is the politics of development, because the Mwananchi and the Wanjiko doesn't recognize the personal relationship between a governor and a deputy governor, regardless of how dire they might be. What Mwananchi requires is service delivery, or they require is development. So the future of devolution is the nation maturing into the politics of development.
Yes.
Because at that level, then you can be able to address the teething issues of interpersonal relationships. And I want to say this very carefully, because in most of the cases, the political instabilities that have been seen across counties, they haven't come about between governors and their deputies, haven't come about because of development. They have come about because of interpersonal relationship between a governor and their deputies, largely because of the unexplained roles between of the deputy governor in some of those positions. And what I want to say is that the future is in development. But to get there, we also need to be realistic on about how we get there. We need to fill in the gaps between the constitution and the legal parameters about who does what and how they do it.
Hence the question, because talking about relationships again, is the same question now talking about development. The members of the county assembly want in on the development. Now they're pushing for a ward development fund for each ward, which is really not what their role should be as prescribed by the Constitution. Where is this conversation heading? Are we at a position where we need to relook at our laws, especially in matters devolution, to actually allow MCAs to carry out development at the ward level?
I think I'm going to take you back to the issue of politics of development, because it's at the heart of what the members of county assembly are asking for. It's about development, because remember, the day that we elected President William Samoei Ruto is the same day that we elected the member of county assembly, under the same booth that person elected. If then Mwananchi is asking President William Ruto to provide water in a certain village or in a certain county, then they have first of all begun asking the member of county assembly for the same water. Regardless, they have started asking the member of county assembly for those services at that level. So what members of county assembly are asking is devolving further development. I apologize about this.
I do apologize. I'm telling you, the kind of wildlife and everything else that can go wrong on live TV is happening to us today. But we continue this conversation. You were saying.
I was talking about development, and it's an issue of devolving the development issues further to the ward level. And I want to say that I fully support members of county assembly in devolving development money towards the ward level. And in most of the counties, they have tried to have a form of a ward development fund. And Murang'a County, and together with my governor, we have a form of a development fund that we are taking to the ward level. For example, in our county, we have put forward 25% of the entire development budget. It's going to be ward-based development.
To be overseen by the county member of the county assembly?
The role of the member of the county assembly, since he's the person who, in day out, has the people of Kenya looking at him and asking him questions. Then he also has the responsibility to lobby for development in his area. So he identifies the projects that are of priority in his community. He conducts public participation in those areas. When his community decides that this is what we are going to do, then to the amount of what we have decided, the 25% of the development budget, then every ward is going to get an equal share. Okay. That way, and I want to give you an example why that is very important. In this financial year that we just completed, Murang'a County, we just completed constructing 139 ECD centers at the ward level. And those are renovations and 12 new constructions. You see, in a period of when we did the supplementary budget in December and the completion in June, having done so much in terms of constructions of ECD centers, we have also done at least 14 dispensaries. We have also done Smart Cities program, at least one in every sub-county. All those developments is about devolving this development fund at the local level. Okay. Not just the governor deciding this is what we are going to do. Then that member of county assembly who has a huge role to play in the political architecture of devolution, then he has to have a say towards how development is going at the grassroots level. Okay. Yes. And
as we wrap up this conversation, Bona Deputy Governor, yes, there's a conversation that's happening at the national level right now that could possibly lead us to a relook at our constitution, yes, some of the laws that we're talking about. And even after 10 years of devolution, probably it could be time to relook at some of the legislation that govern devolution. If at all there's any legislation or piece of law that should be changed or relooked at 10 years on, what would it be? As far as devolution is concerned?
I think there are several. There are several because we have identified those gaps in the 10 years. Yeah. One, I want to put it the PFMA Act, the Public Finance Management Act. This is the act that defines how we allocate resources in a county. And as you look at a county's budget, there is what you call, on one side you have the development budget, on the other side you have a recurrent budget. The constraints of how you define a recurrent budget or items that go into the recurrent budget and items that go to development budget, they have been a chokehold towards the county government. And I'm going to give you an example. In Murang'a County, like any other county across the country, Kenyans have increasingly talked about the service delivery in our hospitals. And they say there is congestion, there is little to no drugs, there are no sufficient health workers in the hospitals. The challenge right now, and every person is facing in this country, in our healthcare system. For example, I have a deficit of almost 400 health workers in the entire system. If we want to employ, the control of budget tells me, no, you cannot employ any more people into the county. Why? Because you have surpassed the ceiling of the ceiling of the wage bill. But is that realistic? Remember, health is a service-driven industry. If I have building, I have medicine, and I have no healthcare workers, then there are no services. Yes. Same case with education. I have over 700 ECD centers in Murang'a County. I have a deficit of almost 350 ECD teachers. And you can't employ. But I cannot employ. Why? Because the PFMA Act has defined what is in this role. The second part is how you define certain development issues in a budget. And I want to give you an example of what we do in bursaries. The county government usually have intervention programs towards the education system. They support students towards universities and secondary schools. But you find that if you want to support students, well, this is an investment towards the future and the intellect of the people of this nation. That's development, and it should be defined as development.
Yes.
But the PFMA Act defined it as recurrent, which also means that when now you within for the state, you look at our budget, you say that
everything goes to recurrent
everything goes to recurrent.
Zero development.
Zero development.
Okay.
But to the contrary, we have so much going on in the recurrent that it has been swallowed up, because recurrent is where mishahara iko, then tunachukua mishahara.
Interesting conversations here with the Deputy Governor Murang'a County, Stephen Munania. And Linda, Lela, this conversation can continue on and on. That's why we have an entire week for the Devolution Conference here in Uasin Gishu at the venue, the Eldoret Sports Club. The conversations we're having here with the Deputy Governor will definitely continue. Thank you so much, Bwana Deputy Governor, for giving us this opportunity to have this discussion with you. We hope to have more discussions before the end of the week.
Yes, and join us in the field.
Definitely. We will definitely do that. Linda,
thank you.
Well, from us here, we just have to hand it over back to you in Nairobi to continue the conversations there. Remember, we'll be back here in the morning on Morning Cafe to continue this conversation, and we'll definitely be updating you throughout the day tomorrow. It is a busy day tomorrow as the President, William Ruto, officially opens the 8th edition of the Devolution Conference here in Eldoret Town. Back to you in Nairobi, Linda.
Thank you for representing us well, and we're looking forward to the show tomorrow and the week on, like you rightfully put it. But back here in studio, I think we have about 10 minutes as well to close it. But before we close it, very pertinent points coming from the other end. But of importance, we started by asking or talking about the question of funding devolution. Funding is one thing. It remains a problem, just like corruption and accountability is. What will it take for us to sanitize it? Because as it is, we are dealing with this conversation under the Constitution that is on unless adjustments are made.
First and foremost, that goes to the national government. The national government plays a big role in success to the devolution. There must be goodwill. Money must be released on time. And then we need proper audit controls, proper checks on how the county government spend the money. I agree with the Deputy Governor. They need to look at the PFMA and try to redefine it to suit the current situation. As he says, some of those monies that are spent on recurrent are actually they're actually more of a development. When you fund students to the universities, when you put more resources to human resource. But the problem has been the national government sometimes delay releasing money. Today there are certain counties that have not paid their own employees for about 2 to 3 months. And the claim is that money has not been disbursed. And at the same time, the national government says that it has disbursed the money. National government should devolve all those functions that were devolved by the Constitution. It has no business to distribute, like in agriculture, the national government has no business to distribute fertilizer. That should be done by the county governments. The previous regime went ahead to lease medical equipment on behalf of the county government.
These two governments should complement each
other. They should complement each other.
How do they then function in synchrony without, this altercation, without feeling like there's duplication of roles, without feeling like, well, someone is overstepping their mandate?
The Constitution is very clear. If each government should stick to its roles without overstepping on the other, and they remove the mistrust.
Are they not the governors that call on the president to come and bring goodies back at, home? And, when the president visits Murang'a, there is excitement, and we know that he comes with goodies. Is there a clear line as to what, in as much as you say the constitution is clear?
That is the political side of it. And if we mix politics and development, you will always have such things.
Yeah.
But in other jurisdictions, it works. Look at
Are we mature enough to manage it?
Oh, yes. 60 years over since we got independence. We should. Kenya has the best expertise. You'll find some of those people who would run our counties or run the government departments. They're in lecture rooms. They don't want to venture into leadership.
Well, we are lucky to have you from Murang'a as well as the Deputy Governor from Murang'a. And you've highlighted some of the success stories, especially under Governor Irungu Kang'ata.
Yes.
The question then, under this theme, or the theme of this year, of course, the future, the present, and, of importance, how can we get the county governments to be at the center of economic development?
Proper policies.
Okay.
Politics of development, as the Deputy Governor has stated it, proper accountability, and clear leadership. When you have a governor, and I'm happy about Murang'a.
Yeah.
In fact, the Deputy Governor and the Governor should come and tell us the secret on how they are able to, work together.
In synchrony.
Yes. When you have a leadership that is working in synchrony, and also where you have a senator who is able to play his role without antagonizing the governor, where we have a county assembly that is working. You have a speaker and the entire assembly working with the governor. Then services will go to the people.
Right.
But where you have wrangles, they will waste more time in politics as opposed to working for the people. So the simple thing is proper leadership, following proper policies, and accountability. Nothing less. But if at all there is something that happened that is good in the Constitution of 2010 was devolution.
Collection of revenue. Collection of revenue at the county level.
Yes.
Has been a problem, or perhaps is a problem. And again, I would want to imagine that we envisioned a scenario where counties would be able to run their activities. They would not depend on the government. And as much as I know money is collected and it goes to the national government and then disbursed back to the county, if there was proper collection of revenue, do you suppose we would be crying about all this that we are, especially when it comes to development?
Linda, there is no county in this country that cannot be able to raise revenue to run itself. And if a county cannot be able to run, because either it is small or the population, disband it. Because the population that lives there, the business activities that are ongoing, should be enough to raise the revenue. In other jurisdictions, it happens. Why not in Kenya?
Good question. How much?
How much is collected by the Nairobi County? Look at it.
Right.
And the counties that have metropolitan cities. It is good money to be able to run those counties. And if you have proper policies and the governor, the leadership, ensures that they collect revenues and those revenues are properly utilized, and whatever they get from the central government is properly utilized, you'll see development.
This is a conversation that runs the entire week. And before I close it, I think I will ask you the very same question that we asked the Deputy Governor. What do you think is the future of devolution? Because that's our main concern as it stands.
The future of devolution in Kenya is bright. And I repeat again, as long as we shall be having a national leadership that is willing, without interfering with the devolved functions. And as long as we have leadership within the county governments, both executive and the assembly, willing to work for the people, that's the best thing that ever happened.
Wakili, I have to admit that it's been an honor having you this evening. Thank you so much for creating time and, of course, the right face, because then evidently Wakili, as he started by mentioning earlier on, he has been, in the forefront to push for, development at the level of the counties and of importance, had offered himself as well to represent his people. It's just that, well, in every context or contest, there's always a winner. Wakili Kariuki Njiri, thank you so much for speaking to us. And as we said, the conversation continues for the better part of the week. You can always engage us at George Maringa, at Linda_, that is at George Maringa _ at Linda_Alela, at Muyakani, at Fred Indimuli. And of course, we'll be engaging you back. Of course, let's keep it going. It's an honor to have you. And let's make sure that we are part of this conversation on matters devolution, if only and only we want to make it a success. My name is Linda Alela. Back to you, George, to close it.
Indeed, you found me going through some of the feedback we are seeing online. The conversation continues 10 years into devolution. A decade ago, we started implementing the Constitution of Kenya 2010 that we as the people, as the preamble in the most respected document that is supposed to govern us in the country, says that we as the people agreed to have this document to govern us, where we agreed on 47 counties as well as the central government that is handled by the executive. That conversation is one that continues online. My name is George Maringa, wishing you a good night from Nairobi as I leave you with this report by Apollo Kamau that traces the 10 years of devolution in the country, especially in regards to the several factors and several institutions and several functions that were devolved. I leave you that feature that will bring you more context as we continue to promise you to cover this devolution conference, the 8th devolution conference in the county of Uasin Gishu, in the best way that we only can here on TV47, the home of untold stories. I'll see you next time. Stay safe and be kind to one another.
The quest to address the country's regional imbalance has always been a bitter pill for Kenya's powerful elites at the central government, not just after the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, when the Trust 4 funds and factions split the devolved units in the national government, but at independence, where the real struggle for Majimboism or federalism began.
And much of Kenya's best land was given to British war veterans.
Majimboism, originally a tool for the white settlers to accumulate wealth, protect property and marginalize Kenyans along tribal and regional lines, gained traction at the first Lancaster House Conference in 1960, where the Majimbo Constitution was formed after heated disagreements to cure the same problem it started, paving way for the country's first Senate and the House of Representatives. Founding father of the nation, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who had half-heartedly accepted the Majimbo Constitution after winning the Kanu elections in 1963, used his Mr. Fix-It then, Home Affairs Minister Jaramogi Odinga, to fix the Majimbo dilemma, as they both believed in a unitary state, compared to former President Daniel Moi and Ronald Gala, who were in KADU and key proponents of Majimbo.
Majimbo was not tried. Majimbo was not given a chance. Majimbo was killed at birth. It was a stillbirth because the mother had decided to squeeze the baby between her thighs and before it even saw the light. The founding fathers had made it very clear that we will not implement.
But you remember the Majimbo Constitution has created the counties also, the county councils. But the county councils were strong. Not the remnants that you saw towards the time you people are being born. Like the county council of Kiambu, revenue-wise, or the county council of Muranga, or the county council of Wareng. Wareng is Uasin Gishu, or Meru. They had more resources than the central government. They were in charge of education, they were in charge of health, they were in charge of roads, they had machinery, and so forth.
The Majimbo Constitution created 8 regional assemblies, headed by prominent politicians. Former President Daniel Moi was the president of the Rift Valley Regional Assembly. Ronald Gala, president of the Coast Regional Assembly, Charles Rubia headed the Nairobi Area Regional Assembly, Yusuf Haji, president of the Northeastern Regional Assembly, Wafula Wabuge headed Western, Lucas Gureti was in Central, Eastern, Geoffrey Mugo, and John Keragori, who headed Nyanza. The fear of the center losing political and economic power became a threat to Kenyatta's rule.
That time, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was the Minister for Home Affairs, and internal affairs were therefore falling under him. And he made it very clear that those secretaries and those provincial administrators will have to continue reporting to his ministry and seeking direction and authority from there and so on. So that's how provincial administration continued. Then they brought an amendment to abolish the regional assemblies. They were removed. Then we remained with the local government. Next thing was an amendment to remove the Senate.
The Constitution of Kenya Amendment Act No. 38 of 1964 sought to weaken the regional governments by making them dependent on the central government. In 1966, the Constitutional Amendment Act No. 40 abolished the Senate and the House of Representatives, creating the National Assembly. Senators were absorbed in the National Assembly. The final nail on the devolution coffin was in 1968, when all the provincial councils were abolished and no regionalism laws appealed.
But I witnessed them being destroyed. That's what I did. Yes. Both as a DO and as an officer in OP, I witnessed that. How? Were they destroyed? You know, it's just like now the way we are now, and just like the Berlin Conference, where you subdivide and weaken. What they did, an example of Kiambu County Council. You will come, create Kiambu Municipal Council. You create an overhead from the same taxation of the citizen. Karori, you create an overhead. Ruiru County Council, and you get a mayor.
The quest to revive Majimboism would later emerge through coast politicians like Sharif Nasir during the Moi era, coinciding with the agitation for democracy and a new constitution in the late 90s and early 2000s, a struggle that again humiliated former President Mwai Kibaki in the 2005 referendum, when Kenyans rejected the draft constitution for creating an imperial presidency. Kibaki was to later give the country a new constitution in 2010, with devolution at the heart of the document, giving birth to the country's 47 counties. It's been a long, arduous journey for Kenyans to reap the full benefits of devolution, given the discomfort it caused to the power elites. This year's devolution conference theme